Hey guys, this is your girl Eartha Harris. I'm an activist and business owner here in Baltimore. I wanted to learn more about the DeFi programs in cryptocurrency, so I got with Ta Seti Inc. and KAMOSE Muhammad, and I was able to triple my money in less than 3 months. So I'm suggesting if you want to know more about the DeFi program, get with Ta Seti Inc. and KAMOSE Muhammad.
My name is Eric Wesley. They call me the Cash Flow Concierge. I was asked to give a recommendation for Brother KAMOSE Muhammad. He is my friend, my mentor, and my business partner. The reason that I got into cryptocurrency is because I was told by an affluent person in my circle, Brother KAMOSE Muhammad, told me to get into crypto, put $500 in and shut up. Well, this is 2 years later. That 500 has proliferated into over $150,000 of actual money. So when someone asks me to recommend Brother KAMOSE, I say, if you're stupid, don't do it. Success leaves clues. This brother knows what he's doing. I have worked with him in real estate as well as now crypto and some other things we're in. This is a brother you should listen to. KAMOSE Muhammad and Ta Seti Inc. are things you should have in your circle, in your bucket for you in order for you to make more money.
What's going on, everybody? What's going on? Welcome to another exciting episode of Meet the. I'm Troy Rawlings, and I'm excited about my interview today because every time I interview this brother, it's a great interview. It's deep. He gets open, but we're going to go further into the story. You may not know a lot of the story about KAMOSE Muhammad, how he got started in business, what he's doing now. And a lot of you do have questions about things like crypto and blockchain and decentralized finance. But we're going to get into the story of KAMOSE Muhammad today. So without further ado, Brother KAMOSE Muhammad, how are you, man?
Brother, I'm doing wonderful. You know, peace and power, peace and blessings, peace and power to you and everyone and anyone listening in on this broadcast. Always a pleasure to come and do something with you, brother.
Yeah, man. You've been somebody that's been helping to encourage me. I heard about KAMOSE prior to 2020 and the pandemic, and you know, it's without going into a lot of detail because I want him to tell the story. I remember telling a friend of mine, Eartha Harris, like, what am I gonna do with 30 rolls of toilet paper a month? Cut to, I got a chance to come back around and talk to him about one of his businesses and got to see the ups and downs that we all go through. We all go through ups and downs, not only in life and business, but to see somebody transition. A lot of times we'll see people transition, especially in our community. We see them do good. We see them seem like they're still above, they're still there, they're still present, they're still reachable. But we don't ask how. How did you get there? How do you maintain? So, and we need to do that more in our culture, more in our time. So let's go back. I'm a Tarantino a little bit, but let's go back. Where are you originally from?
Well, brother, I hail from the great city of Baltimore in Maryland. And so born and raised here, but have had the privilege and the blessings to travel many places here in the U.S. and throughout the world.
Yeah. And when exactly, because this is going to be we usually do hour-long interviews, but I want to get to the story. When exactly did you know that, or you felt that entrepreneurial bug? Was it young? What age were you when you felt the entrepreneurial bug, I should say?
Well, I always, tell the story, which is a truth and a reality, that somewhere around the age of 3, 4, 5 years old, my mom told me that she asked me the question that parents often ask their children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And she said, because I don't really remember this, but she said, I told her I wanted to be a business person. I wanted to be a businessman. So evidently that entrepreneurial spirit was in me from the beginning. I certainly can remember the thought of being in business always being with me. So even when I had jobs or whatever, it was always thinking, how can I do something for myself? How can I make money on my own? That's always been.
So what was your first, newspaper, lemonade stand, cutting grass?
I've done
Snow.
it.
I think about Baltimore stuff. Snow,
I've
very
done
well,
the shoveling the snow, to cutting the grass, to washing the cars. Certainly, as a young person, a teenager looking for money. You know, when you're a teenager, you want to buy this and buy that, and your parents, you know, they're like, "Hey, look, we can't do all that." So, if you with that entrepreneurial spirit, I found ways to make my own money. So, but I was probably doing that literally somewhere around 7 or 8 years old. I was doing the proverbial hustle.
right. So you go to school. You went. Did you go to? You went to school in Baltimore. You went to all the Baltimore schools, or where were you schooled? I should say.
I was schooled here in
Yeah.
Maryland.
So after school, did you go to college? Did you look into some other education, trade school, anything?
Well, I did some time in the military,
No.
and then I did pick up college again. I've actually never finished college, which I think for me, and this is nothing against people who go to college, but many of the people that I went to school with, some of them college graduates, they have good jobs, etc. But they've never made $1 million.
Right.
so I don't have a college degree but
That's
I
that
have
$1
knowledge.
million laugh.
I have
I'm
some
trying to get.
I legitimately made $1 million of gross income, and in fact more than one. So it's good.
Well, we think about it. We look at the cats that, we talk about. Like, we'll go into this some, but it's funny because we talk about the people like the Bill Gates or the Mark Zuckerberg, two people who did not finish college. They got honorary doctorates or whatever, and they speak places. But we look at their brilliance, but we don't always talk about our brilliance in a lot of ways. We later on, when somebody passes away, or when they sell a company, or somebody mentioned the other day, my man Rodney Perry, comedian, he's doing a show and he gets quiet. He said, "Man, who's a genius?" He said Kanye West, and people start laughing and stuff. He said, "But y'all got to realize, Kanye West made $1 billion in 10 years," and everybody got quiet. And he said he was going to do it. And a lot of times we don't look at that. It matters where you are when you're young. It matters who's around you. People talk a lot of stuff about Baltimore, but one thing it teaches you to do, if you let it go forward, and no matter what hits you, keep going. So what was the first legit business that you realized, okay, I can stand in this place and do this business, and it's affording me money, this business, even if you had to do other things? What was the first quote unquote business you said, okay, this is going to be my business, even though we know it transitions?
Well, a couple of things came to mind as you were saying some of the things you were saying. So I want to just mention a couple of things first. I think it's real important that people, and people who know me understand that I'm not like most people in the sense that I don't think inside of a certain box, right? We're often taught to trained to believe certain ideas and certain ideologies, and I'm not that person, to just believe because you told me to. So I'm a person who deeply researches, takes a look into things, and then make my own decisions. I don't do things simply because, quote, you're supposed to, per se, right? So I've made some decisions and done some things in business that some people might consider counter productive. It's not all about making money for me. There's a part of me certainly that is the activist, right? The grassroots person that just loves the people. I'm the person who is not. I'm not a capitalist. Now that might sound strange coming from a business person who lives in the United States in particular, but I'm not a capitalist. I'm a communalist. We could talk that at some other point what that really means, but what it means in short is, if you understand capitalist theory, capitalist ideology, that ideology is the same ideology that brought forth slavery. So how can I be that?
Right.
This is my thinking. Like, how could I be something that actually dehumanizes my entire culture. So I'm not that. However, that doesn't mean I don't want to make money. It doesn't mean we shouldn't make money. It doesn't mean we can't. It just means there's a sense of balance, if you will, to what's going on in what I do. But my first, I guess, real business, let's call it tangible business, where you're paying taxes and this kind of thing, was a cleaning business. So I had a cleaning business. It was a franchise. A lot of people have got, this is way back when these things were first, coming about, these cleaning franchises. And I had a job. So I worked the job and I worked that. That did pretty well, got to a point, sold it, right? Flipped it and did 2 retail stores. Well, I started with 1, and then the 1 grew into 2. So I had retail stores. At this time, I didn't even know how to sell, right? I was somewhat of an introvert at this point, still in my life, and nobody believes what I tell them that now, but it's still true.
Right. It's like he's a third interview, and he does stuff here. He speaks in front of people on a regular basis, and he consults on a regular basis on the screen.
It's only by the power of the Most High and the ancestors that these kind of things can happen. Trust me. But 2 retail stores, had that moving, and then while that was going on, there was literally a transition. Part of that business was communications, right? And there was a change in terms of the industry of communications. This is going back to the pager days and the Nextel phone kind of days. And we now understand those 2 things don't exist really anymore.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So there's an industry shift happening, right? And this is important for business people who might be listening to understand, because there are things that happen that you're not planning on. You can't foresee the future, but you have to do something when these things happen. So we begin to see the shift in the industry. And then, so I started getting into real estate at this point. Started dabbling in real estate, and real estate took us a long way really to that first $1 million that we achieved. But then here comes the recession, right? So again,
this is 2000, and this is around 2007, 2008 when you start going into the recession.
Exactly. So we were in real estate in the late 90s, did extremely well in the real estate, had several related businesses in real estate. Finance was one of the things we did and learned. And I really enjoyed finance. It was one of the better things I think I've enjoyed in terms of, if you will, my career in business. Did a lot there, learned a lot, met a lot of great people. So, and that kind of has come full circle, and we'll get into that. But that's really one of the new things that I really love. With real estate, we did everything around real estate, if you will. We did construction. We did full-fledged development. We were building townhouse communities. That's where we were. We had gone from, the guy who gets a rehab house and flips it, right, to having a lot of those, more than 30 of those, property management, all that kind of stuff. And then we moved up to development. Now, mind you, and not to toot my horn, I humbly say that it was just drive and maybe my ancestors in me who come before me, that their drive was in me, because this was being accomplished, again, from the grassroots up. And what I mean by that is, again, we're taught certain things. We're taught to, well, you have to do this first, and you have to go this route, and you got to go and get the bank to do this, and you got to get. I didn't do any of those things. I did this in a totally non-traditional way and achieved it. So this is kind of how my business sojourn has been, and it is, it's had its ups and downs, but we've been greatly blessed.
And that's inevitable. And I think we were talking about it before, because one thing I love about KAMOSE, we can get into, and he's a person that's helped me through some tough times. And especially during the pandemic, when we were trying to figure everything out. Another time when times change and no one expects it, and we're trying to figure it out. The recession came, and you told me something that told me about your research prowess and something like that, and I echo it all the time. When you said when you were going through the recession, you knew you had to do some kind of transition in business, because also the real estate wasn't just a recession. The real estate game was getting tainted. So many people had made some money off those traditional ways of thinking. Oh, do this and do balloon and 50 year. And people are like, yeah, cool. I can afford this house. And like, you're upside down. Like, what does that mean? It means if you were in a balloon, hot air balloon upside down, you usually die. But you said you wanted to research businesses that hadn't lost money during hard times. And I've never heard anybody say that. And you said you started researching businesses that hadn't lost, and you saw the paper goods industry. And I was like, that was kind of brilliant, but I never thought about that. And we don't look into a lot of other cultures of old school money, but if we look at most of the billionaires in Africa, outside of tech, they're like steel, wood, plastic, you know, stuff that we don't think about, the basics that we use every day. And Africa still being the birth ground, the motherland, and the place of the most resources in the world. The wise people in Africa that look like us, who are billionaires, are have their hands in those resources, even up to coffee in Ethiopia. So how did you go about that transition? Because that kind of leads into us talking more about Ta Seti as well. But you saw there was something going on a shift, and what drew you to the paper goods industry?
So at this juncture, I want to say this. There's two things that I think people need to really consider when they're talking about business. Again, we're really not taught business. So that's very important. Two, even when we're taught business, let's say you go to school and get a business degree, and you even get an MBA, right? If you think about it, most MBAs, our MBAs in particular, they're not running their own companies. They're working for somebody else's company. Just think about that for a second. So what that tells us is, by and large, we're being taught to be big time managers, not necessarily be entrepreneurs. So if you really retrace the history of business in this country and understand certain things, one of the things that we would probably find out is that real entrepreneurs are not just doing one thing. They don't have just one business. They run into trouble here and there. You can name almost anybody. You know, if you name Rockefeller, for example, Rockefeller at one point was going bankrupt.
Yeah, right.
He was near bankruptcy, and then he turned it around. So if you really research the history of even the ultra rich and ultra wealthy, you'll find that they ran into roadblocks and situations, but it was the circumstances normally of them either being able to find some new technology or circumstance or align themselves with other people for some mutual benefit that allowed them to propel themselves. I just want to note, I got to say this, Dr. Amos Wilson, one of our great worthies, I say one of the greatest minds of the 20th century among us. When he talks about business, he tells us that, we've been made to believe in sort of the white Superman business person, right? It doesn't exist. And he reminds us, right, that in many cases, what happens is when we look at the large majority or the greater majority businesses, we think of them as so great and elite, but in fact, they're not. So the recession, in fact, was caused by whom? Major banks, major insurance company, major investment houses. These are the people that caused the recession, right? So, we bowed down to their greatness, and yet even after the recession was caused by them, who paid for the recession? It was the people.
It was the people.
So the people paid for the recession. I'm saying this because, again, one of the things we were able to do is see kind of transitions in just the general world situation, right? So, when the Great Recession hit, we lost $800,000. I mean, that was a tremendous blow. We didn't know what we were going to do. We had to sit back and be cool, go into meditation and prayer. But as you said, and I mentioned to you before, we began to look at the trends of businesses that did not falter, fail, or just dissolve during the recession. And we found that the paper goods industry was one of those businesses. It actually grew. So we didn't see any companies owned by African people, especially here in the US at that time. If it were, there was one or two, maybe, nothing, basically, right? And we got involved and we began to build. Now, economy of scale has always been a major challenge. Many of us don't even understand. So economy of scale, just to give a brief definition, is lending to the ability to do business at a certain height and level, meaning you can do volume, right? So when people are talking about price, why is your price higher than this and that? We have to understand that a company, a major corporation, paper company, I'm just, like Kimberly-Clark, has huge economy of scale. Like they can make product and they can make it fast and they can make an abundance of it. And then they're selling it across the globe. That's economy of scale. So when you take a smaller company that has a smaller footprint, it has to do a lot more just to compete. We were able to find a niche to do that, which is amazing within itself, but it's certainly been a trial and tribulation. But 12 years, Freedom Paper Company was around, and I think it should be applauded. It still has its challenges. We're still getting product out to people. We're still improving. We're still growing. We're still finding ways, because even with the next set of challenges, right? The pandemic and all of that, that has caused an inflation and the global logistics debacle, right? Again, look at all the major companies that they could not handle the weight of the global infrastructure falling apart. Major corporations dissolved, major banks, major insurance companies went out of business. But the baby companies like ours, because of foresight and blessings, we were able to not only continue, but to even thrive to some degree and continue forward. That's how you know the greatness of our business acumen.
Now, what did you learn from having Freedom Paper Company that you didn't learn from real estate? What was the extension of knowledge?
I think the extension of knowledge really had to be continuing to forecast always. Like you can never be stagnant. You must continue to look at this thing from a viewpoint where you can see all the avenues of change taking place. And what you have to do is have multiple realities, right? So we have to utilize everything at our disposal to win. And that's kind of what has led us into Ta Seti, because even during the pandemic, with all of that going on, some of the things that we ended up doing were really just before the pandemic. We were doing business consulting. So Ta Seti Inc. is a management consulting firm. We're management consultants. We help businesses do a number of things from bottom line or base level business development through business expansion, financial growth, financial forecasting, communication systems, business coaching, leadership development, all sorts of things in terms of management consulting. But we focused in on a few things as well. So what kind of happened there is we were already doing that sort of inside other work. In other words, we were doing consulting and coaching and all of these business development. We've even developed businesses for governments. So we did that in Newark, New Jersey, where we were able to actually develop a company for the city that was grassroots, you see. So we were able to do that from the ground up for them. And so we looked and said, wow, we've got all these years of experience in all of these different industries. We could really be an asset to businesses and the growth development of businesses over.
And Ta, for those who don't know, Ta Seti, TASETI. What is Ta Seti? Where did you get that name? Because when you kept saying Ta Seti at first, I'm like, what is the brother saying Ta Seti? And then you broke it down. Like, oh.
Well, I'm definitely embedded in my own culture. I think any person any person who loves themselves values their own culture. That's just, I mean, find me a person who values themselves. Who doesn't. I'll say it that way. So when I do things from the basis of my own culture, my own being, my own essence. Ta Seti was a city in Nubia, one of the great cities that existed. It was called the land of the bow. They were great warriors that came out of Ta Seti. So that is the origin and nature of Ta Seti. It was one of the great cities of Nubia.
In Africa, for those who don't know, like Nubia, Africa. It's not it's not China. It's not,
Yes.
it's Africa.
Keep along.
Yeah. So you began developing, and you were doing it before, because when you were talking about freedom, you said, Troy, this is not the aspect, it's not just about paper goods. I want to help people establish businesses, because a lot of people don't have something they're selling. And if you don't have something to sell, be it a product or service, you're not in business. So I want to help, we're looking at some things, and you were just breaking that down. So initially when you talked about Ta Seti, I just figured, he's just helping more people establish business. But then you start talking about blockchain, decentralized finance, crypto. I was like, whoa, wait. Because I was learning about it, but you were learning about it at a faster level, because I guess you were like, no, I'm looking at everything and there's some great opportunities here. Not just that, but we as a people are making crazy. There's some folks that look like us that are making money, have been making money for a while in this space, and there's a way to do it. But also break it down with the main aspects of Ta Seti and what people get through your consulting in that space.
Right. So one of the things I found out about myself is I love to teach. I love to share. And one of the things I did not have, although I met a number of individuals, on the road who they themselves had gotten to great levels and heights of their business careers. And I was able to meet them from time to time, and they would open up and share certain things. One of the things we don't have or don't have access to sometimes are sort of like mentors or coaches, people that we can talk to that have gone through it, have done it, have built business, gone through struggle, overcome it, etc. So I love to teach. I found out I love to teach. So again, we're management consultants. We consult, we coach, we do those things for people. But Ta Seti, if we wanted to kind of roll it up or summarize it, it would be management consulting, wealth creation, wealth management, and wealth security. So these are sort of the aspects of Ta Seti in terms of what we do with the company. And when you talk about blockchain, again, we are always looking for the change, right? What's happening now? What's new? How are things evolving? Because life is always evolving. Either you're moving forward or you're moving backwards. There is no real stagnancy or stagnation in terms of you're just standing still. That doesn't really exist. Everything moves forward or backwards. You're progressing or degressing. So even with freedom in the challenges we had in many businesses, let me say this is another important thing that sometimes we get caught up in our confusion because of the way we're taught. All businesses need money. Let me say that again. All businesses need money, whether it's the small mom and pop business or it's the huge business, Fortune 500 company. All businesses need money. The difference is, how do we obtain it, right? How do we get it? So small businesses have to generally borrow from family or friends or go to the bank and get capital or something of this nature. Big businesses have a big bank account. I'm calling it that. It's called, it's often called a public investment, right? So they sell shares and they're able to raise capital. So some people don't know, but there are major Fortune 500 companies that yet today have not made a profit. Now, I'm going to name one. I could be mistaken at this point. Let me say that because I don't want to get any trouble.
When this airs, it's like, no, we did. We just made a profit. What is he talking about?
Exactly. It could have happened
years, but
So the last time I looked, though, certainly let's go back a few years. Let's say that. So Uber, for example, big company, right, making billions of dollars, didn't make a profit a few years ago as of then. Maybe today it has. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it lately, but it had not made a profit for years. Took Amazon roughly 20 years to make a profit. People don't really know that. Dell Computers, 11 years before it made a profit. Now, you and I can't do that. We got to make a profit pretty soon, right? These companies are able to continue to exist because capital is rolling in. So people need to understand when they want to go into business or even when they're looking at us as business people, these are the real life challenges that we face. Capitalization is one of the foremost reasons why businesses disappear or fail, right? Lack of capital. So what we began to look for was capital, right? Listen, we know as African people, redlining, right? Discrimination in lending still exists. Not a secret, it still exists. It has existed forever, and it still exists today. We know that there have been major banks recently who have been fined and penalized and found guilty of redlining, right? We know that during the recession, it was discovered that African people, African Americans, quote unquote, with super credit scores, 800 credit scores, 700 credit scores, were getting subprime lending rates, right? Discrimination, right? Okay, now, how are we going to deal with this? Well, blockchain offers an opportunity as a super game changer. So when we were having challenges, like many businesses were having challenges during the pandemic, looking for capital resources, we began to investigate blockchain. And blockchain is the fundamental foundational element, technology, if you will, of many other things that we're hearing about right now, like NFTs and the metaverse, cryptocurrencies. Blockchain is the foundation that these things set up. So at Ta Seti Inc, we are experts. We're literally, we have the credentials, if you will, of being certified as blockchain experts. Although I don't take that title expert too seriously per se, because this game is this is moving like this. Like, so you
told
got
me the other day, you was like, Troy, Saturdays, you called me on Saturday. Saturdays I gotta study because this stuff changes every day.
You gotta stay on top of this stuff constantly.
Like,
it literally is
tax laws.
Oh yes, it's literally evolving. But we have credentials as blockchain experts. We have credentials as cryptocurrency experts. We have credentials as stock, regular stock market trading experts. These are our credentials. So we're not some guys, and I don't mean any harm to the brothers and sisters and the people on YouTube doing what they do. More power to you. I listen to your videos too. Some of these people are very, very good. But we're credentialed. You know what I'm saying? We study this stuff. We take this as a science, if you will. We're not just out here throwing money around and telling people to do this and that. We deal with real world techniques and real world mathematical, scientifically based methodology to do what we do. And so we ourselves were able to utilize decentralized finance as a means to raise capital for one of our businesses. And it helped it to get through the struggle of capital, and we were very, very successful. And so we started, doing this for other people. And you saw just the other day we did a live with a brother, and he was one of our clients a couple of years ago. He became one of our clients. He did excessively well. You heard right out of his own mouth that he made $50,000.
Six figures off of less than 4.
and he's done so well that he started his own business. You understand? So this isn't, can it work? Will it work? No, it does work. Is that to say it's a guarantee or it's abracadabra, is a get rich quick? No, it's none of that. But with continuous diligence, with a rigor of structure and study and a willingness and determination to do it, we're finding great success.
I like the fact, and like I say, as we're closing, I like the fact because I want people to get in touch with you and talk to you and learn more. Like Kamo said, he's a teacher, and a lot of people are fearful. We're fearful of what we don't know, just because that's how our brain works. Our brain says no first, and you have to work it because it's saying no usually to protect you, but it's also saying no because it goes by the same patterns you always do. People say, oh, for years, people would say, oh, we only use 10% of the brain. They said that's a lie. We use our brain. The 10% is the things you do all the time, the way you drive, why you can be daydreaming and still end up parking at your job. You know, you brushing your teeth and putting your clothes on and doing it. The 10% is very simple. The other percent is used when you learn something different, when you're in love, when you're doing something spiritual, all this stuff, when your brain starts tingling, you know. So the great thing about talking to people like Kamos and things like that is even when you're going through issues, you need the information to transition out. And a lot of times if you shut down, you're not getting the information transition out. So one of the things I want you to give, of course, the information on Ta Seti, but you said something key. You said, well, let me say this. It's not only about blockchain, because you talk about teaching things that help you with taxes. You talk about business things. And then you have other elements with the Ta Seti piece that some people don't know. This is the reason why some people get involved with companies like Mary Kay, or Prepaid Legal, or Golden Coffee, or, you know, I did so many people like, Troy, you got so many people, you should do this. It was like, I've done it. I started ACN in the 90s. I was in Mary Kay selling stuff for my barber clients. But one day I realized, I was like, wait, I'm the product. So if you're the product, there's a way to deal with you in that, meaning that people in the entertainment industry, or you're doing something, Ta Seti can help you in that, even if you don't have a product, and still help you get a product to begin your merch and stuff. So how can people get in touch with you? Let's get it. How can people get in touch with you and make sure they're connecting with you? Is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Definitely reach out to us at our website, www.tasetiinc.com, www.tasetiinc.com. Or the phone number is 443-419-7529. 443-419-7529. You know, Troy, just as you were mentioning, so one of the things we're definitely talking a lot about is this blockchain, and in particular, where we focus in is the decentralized finance. I want to say two things about this. Even if you don't want to get into this at the level where you know you're making money, and we're not financial advisors, we're not your financial advisor, but we are educators. So we're educating people about decentralized finance. And we can do that in a couple of ways. We can do it where you just become knowledgeable about it. I'm going to talk a moment why that's so important. And we can also do it from the perspective that you could possibly make some money. So as we just said, we had a client that made, you know, $250,000 in the DeFi space in terms of our instruction in the way that we educated this individual. So what people need to understand is you got two choices today. You can learn now while it's opportune, and there's no pressure like that, and you can gain insight and be in control more of your own reality. You can wait and be dragged along, kicking and screaming as the powers to be bring in digital realities and force you to use it. That's happening now. This has been coming now for about 3, 4, 5 years, really longer. It's been in play, but we've been hearing about it over the last 5 years. It's in play right now. So there's a system in the U.S.
I'm gonna interject something. I want to interject something real quick because this is important. Here in Los Angeles, I don't know about as much in Maryland. I know in D.C. I think I talked to you before about how Nipsey Hussle, when he was alive, said he came off tour because he heard it was a place in Amsterdam that you could fully function with crypto, and he wanted to see it. This was almost 6 years ago now. So There are places in California that you can't pay with cash. You cannot pay with cash. There are some places that the first thing they have on there is not, the first thing they have on there is Apple Pay. It's not the credit, you know, so, and I had to interject this because some of you see it and like, yeah, whatever. Some of you don't even realize that you can't, there's several places in business that you can't go in with cash. I've been places and they're like, oh, we don't take cash. And you're like,
and let me just say this because it's going to be quick. Listen, the way they're going to do it is the things that we all have to do or might want to do. They'll utilize that to make us implement it into our lives. So, for example, your tax returns will be coming in, you know, in a digital form in the near future. Like, period. Like, that's it.
most people are getting them like that.
You want
I
your
got
tax
it instant in my account
You want
already.
your tax return? Okay, you're gonna need CBDC, central bank digital currency. Like, you're gonna use Fed now to get it. Like, do you want it? That's the choice. It's coming, right? If you on any kind of government assistance in the very near future, that's going to be how you get it. And that may be okay for whatever it's worth, but do you only want that? Do you want your money to be totally controlled by somebody else? Talking about programmable money. Right, that's a big conversation. But just understand, anytime somebody can go in and program what your money is doing, for me, that's something that's really kind of dangerous. That means they can cut your money off like that. Right? They just hit a button and you're off. So y'all remember Will Smith? What was that movie? You know, when his credit cards didn't work anymore?
Enemy of the state.
There you go.
Enemy of the state. Oh, let
That's
me
what
try
we're
this
talking
again.
about.
No,
Yeah,
you can't use that.
That's the possibilities, right? So again, we do this education, and it's very, very, I think it's very inexpensive to come in. You could just get the education. But for those who want to get education and then grow some wealth, grow some possibility, you know, we can do that in a very, very inexpensive way as well. But then we have an intensive. You know, this is where, you know, we're holding your hand, you're learning, we're working with you. These are 3-month intervals where we bring you in and we're going to teach and train you, and we're going to work with you. We're going to have a whole course structure for you to really get in and grow. And that's what the brother took that did the $250,000. He took the intensive, and he's still getting classes and growing. But this puts us in a place to do phenomenal things. So, you know, that's sort of that kind of thing. And then we do really just the management consulting. We take companies and help them grow. We have taken some small businesses and enabled them to grow their company by, you know, 30, 40, 50% in as little as 1 year.
Awesome. So Ta Seti Inc. has 2 I's because it's Ta Seti, TASETI, then it's INC.com, right?
Exactly.
So at in 443-419-7529, you'll see the information below. You'll see it in the YouTube. This, if you're watching this via StreamYard, it will save to Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, what have you. And more to come with KAMOSE. But reach out, y'all. This is the time to get information.
Get this last email address: customer service at Ta Seti Inc. Customer service at TaSetiInc.com. That's, you can get direct communication with us like that. But again, you can go to the website and just hit the contact us page and reach out to us that way.
Thank you, brother. We always go over. But I wanted you to.
There's a lot to learn, a lot to say. There's big changes coming on the global scene. One day we should just talk about that, like some of the real global implications of what's going on. Because it's not only just a digital reality, but there are, you know, some say there are money wars taking place right now. We need to talk about how we're affected or going to be affected by these things in terms of currency and commodities and securities and all of these things. Like, we're being affected, whether you know it or not, you're being affected. So we stay on top of all of this stuff because it's a part of the work we do. But yes, Troy, we'd love to just come back and just give some information and education on that.
Oh, we'll post some stuff. You'll see some stuff on the Ta Seti. Follow at Ta Seti, I think it's _Inc. or Ta Seti. Once you put in Ta Seti Inc. in Instagram, it'll come up. Follow.
I think it's Ta Seti Inc. So Ta Seti .Inc.
.Inc. Okay, Ta Seti .Inc. on Instagram. Put that below as well. But yeah. And I love what you said about forecasts. We might have to do a forecast Friday something, because shoot, people to watch, you used to watch the clicker before. Everything was if it bleeds, it leads. When you watch the channels, you were getting clicker information continuously while you're watching news, because that's how quickly things happen. And I appreciate you, brother.
Yes, indeed. Honor and a pleasure.
Appreciate you tremendously. And we will talk soon. Talk to you soon.